Good morning, YouTube. All right, I think I'm finally live. YouTube was showing a video from yesterday. All right, let's see what we got going on here. All right, okay. All right, so we're on part 17 of the SHSAT-like ISEE questions. All right, so I think I'm finally live. Hey, wait a second. I got an echo. I turned the mic on as well. Give me 1 second. All right, did that work? Yeah, okay. I don't hear myself anymore. All right. So this is going to be the last section. It's about 10 questions. It's probably going to take less than an hour, guys. Welcome live viewers and replay viewers. Once this is done, I'll continue to do other streams, as you can see. Please like and sub. If you follow my channel, you'll see I'm doing a lot of streams ranging from just general questions and answers about the SHSAT and other tests, like the Hunter College test, the SSAT, obviously the ISEE, because that's what this stream is about as well, and a whole bunch of other tests. So I'm Greg from GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. Feel free to email me about anything. Feel free to join any of my streams. Most of my streams, 99.9% are live streams. I prefer that instead of trying to edit out a video. So there might be mistakes and so on, but that's part of the nature of the beast, and it's trying to get things resolved. So we're kind of at the upper end of the ISEE, and we're definitely into SHSAT 9 problems. But again, that includes SHSAT 8. There's not a specific SHSAT 8 list in ELA or math, and there's not a specific SHSAT 9 list in ELA math. But in the SHSAT 9 includes a lot of SHSAT 8. So keep that in mind as well. And if you're taking SHSAT 8, you definitely want to, first of all, challenge yourself. And second of all, be aware that sometimes there's very hard problems on the SHSAT 8. So they may actually be technically SHSAT 9 questions. So at the bottom, at the end of the day, the SHSAT 9ers need to know all of SHSAT 8 and all of SHSAT 9. And SHSAT 8ers need to know all of SHSAT 8 and at least some of SHSAT 9. And the worst case, challenge yourself to do harder problems. So in conclusion, you both need to know both of them. A lot of you guys are sending me messages asking what's on which test and which is better and which is worse and which is which. That you have to do both for both. Okay? All right. So let's try to jump into here. Looks like the stream is going. All right. Let me bring the handbook up higher. Okay, let's move me over. Okay, so I think the last problem we did was the one on the screen. So let's go to question number 29. And just be aware that the ISEE is slightly different than the SHSAT. So the ISEE has a different premise and motivation than the SHSAT, even though both are pretty close. For instance, you may have met on that the Boston exam schools, which is similar to the New York City specialized high schools, uses the ISEE. So this would be their set of test questions. This is literally going to be the sample for that test. The SHSAT one is closer, but it normally is a little more obtuse, a little more twist. The SHSAT normally twists the problems up more. So maybe let's jump into the first problem, 29. 29 should be near the screen. Let me just make sure it is. Yes, it is. All right, if you're catching us in the replay, you can pause the video, try to figure it out, and then see if it confirms what I'm presenting. So Alan measures the height of a pole to be 3 feet and the length of the shadow of the pole to be 5 feet. And I just violated one of my normal rules, which is that if you have an illustration, look at it first. So we see there's a rectangular prism, basically looks like a shoebox on its side. It's 3 feet up, and there's a shaded area that's 5 feet. And normally when something's presented like this, you can assume it's something about a shadow or something like that, which I just started reading the problem. We know what it is. And the problem doesn't show us anything else. The only thing I find odd with the problem is that it's not just showing a stick. It's showing the rectangular prism. All right? And so we have the two data. The shadow's 5 foot. and the length of the thing there is 3. So it says, so now let's go back to the words. So remember, if you look at the figure first, there's normally words before the figure, then the figure, and then words afterwards. A lot of kids will actually, even if they don't follow my rule, they will actually just skip to the words underneath the figure and then go back. So no matter how you do it, you have to read that first group of words. By the way, this is true in the ELA section. If it starts with an italicized thing or directions or something, always read them because they're part of the passage somehow. So I consider even the math problems as little passages. All right, so Alan measures the height of a pole to be 3 feet. So let's start processing this and writing down what we know. So there's a pole. So this rectangular prism apparently is this pole to be 3 feet. Okay? And the length of the shadow of the pole to be 5 feet. Okay? It says, at the same time, the shadow of a tree is 20 feet. So we're going to have another figure with this part here is going to be 20. We don't know what that is. Okay? And it says, what is the height of the tree? A lot of you could just look at this through observation and figure this out, that this is times 4. So this must be times 4. So the answer should be 12, right? So 29 should be B. And it is. You could also set up a ratio. There's 2 things you can set up. 3 is to 5 as x is to 20. And you can also set up 3 is to x as 5 is to 20. And we can also do the inverses of these. So we can also get 5 is to 3 as 20 is to x, and x is to 3 as 20 is to 5. Okay, we're going to do the cross product on each of them, no matter what it is. In all 4 scenarios, we're going to get 60 equals 5x, and then we divide by 5 on both sides, and we get 12 equals x. All right, so this is kind of the ones where I'm saying it's kind of no-brainer-ish. This is definitely a SHSAT problem because this actually deals with similar triangles. That's the aligned principle here, that technically we're supposed to know we have a right angle here. We have a right angle here. And if we draw from the top of the pole to the other side of the shadow, we get a triangle. And if we were to draw from the top of the tree to the end of its shadow, we also get a triangle. So we have 2 right triangles that are similar. In other words, this angle is going to be the same as that angle. And this angle up here, I'm putting 1 and 2 things. This double 1 here is the same as that one there. So the similar angles, the lengths of the sides are in ratios. Okay? The angles are the same, but the lengths of the sides are a ratio. There's also some other truisms about similar triangles, but we're not going to focus on them in this problem. All right? So this one is kind of a no-brainer-ish. And if you're not getting this, especially for the SHSAT, go back to your core issues and your fundamentals and review them. Because this one was a straight-up one-for-one problem on something like this. And again, the SHSAT's normally going to add a twist to it. Sometimes the ISEE adds a twist to it. But in this case, they didn't. They just straight up asked the question. So if you got this wrong, you are most likely going to get the SHSAT problem wrong because it's going to be slightly harder or with a twist or with a little slight different, even if it's just at the ending. They always just throw a little twist into it, guys. All right? Okay. Okay, 30. Actually, I think we did 30 and 31 the last time. You know what? It may be that we actually did 29. But I think I was ending the stream and I did these 3 real quick. So 30 and 31, you can go back to the previous stream, number 16 of this process. We definitely did that, do 32. Let me make sure that that this is not in the way. Oh, and I see this was not showing. So let's bring that up too. So this is just what I drew here, guys. Here's my similar triangles. Sorry, it was not showing. Right, when we set up the triangles, we get this. And here's our formulas. 3 over 5 equals x over 20. Flip it, 5 over 3 equals 20 over x. 3 over x equals 5 over 20. And reverse and reciprocalize those, x over 3. And in all cases, we get 60 equals 5x. We do the division, we get that. We could also done it by observation again, since this wasn't showing. This is times 4, so this must be times 4 because the lengths of the sides of similar triangles are in ratio. All right? Okay, so let's try to do the next problem. It's not showing on the screen exactly, so let's bring that down a smidgen. And let's drag this over to the other side of the screen. All right, there we go. So we have a circle is inscribed in a square with a side length 10, as shown. So we're going to have this. And it's telling us this is a square with a side length of 10 centimeters. Okay? It says a circle, we're being given that, is inscribed, which means it's drawn inside a square with a side length of 10, as shown. Okay? And we have a shaded region. So again, we should be looking at the figure first. And normally when you see something like this, you don't even have to read the words. Normally what you're going to be doing is taking the area of figure 1 and subtracting it from the area of figure 2. Okay? Just as soon as you kind of see two shapes within inside of each other or overlapping in some manner, they're almost always asking you to do something like that. And even if there's another step before you do that subtraction or another step after you do that subtraction, the core problem is that, okay? So a circle, this is our circle here, is inscribed in here. And they're asking what is the area of the shaded region. So again, our figure 1 here is going to be the square, and our figure 2 here is going to be the circle. So the area of the square is just this, right? So we have 10 by 10, so the area of the square is 10 by 10, and that's equal to 100. All right? The area of the circle, since the circle is inside of here, that means the radius is 5, the diameter is 10. So the area of a circle, everybody should know this, often on the ISEE they will give you formulas. In this case they didn't. The SHSAT will never give you a formula. All right, for instance, if you look at the bottom of the page for the next question, they give you the formula for volume of a cylinder. They will not do that on the SHSAT. So especially grade 9ers, you're going to have to know more formulas than grade 8ers. So be careful with that. So the area of a circle is pi r squared. So if we know r is 5 because it's half, if this is 10 down here, then it's 10 up here for the diameter of the circle. So the radius is 5. So we're going to get pi 5 squared, or we're going to get equals to pi 25. Or if we write that normalized form, we get 25 pi. All right? So what we're going to do is subtract the two areas. We have 100 minus 25 pi. And the answer is in centimeters in either cases. That parenthesis kind of isn't needed there, although we could have just said 100 centimeters squared minus 25 pi centimeters squared. So 32, the answer should be C. Yep, it is. Okay, so this, we run into a second problem here that's kind of has the same truism that the previous question had, which is that the SHSAT will normally make this harder. The ISEE is testing your basic knowledge here. It's almost at the state test level, these two examples we just went through. The SHSAT will normally make this harder, especially in the grade 9 one. In that one, they may set up another thing here where there's a triangle here somehow, and they may ask like, what's the shaded area right there or something. It can get more involved, and you have to figure out based on the angles and the ratio, and they might give you another side length, like this is 10 or something. The length of the hypotenuse is 10, and you have to figure stuff out based on that. And in all those problems, you just have to sweat through it. They normally give you enough so that if you apply a couple of rules to it, based on angles and so on, you can figure out extra angles or extra lengths of sides. And once you do that, you can get perimeters and areas and stuff like that. And that's the crux of the matter on the SHSAT issue. Some of the ISEE questions make you do that as well, but normally in the SHSAT, they're forcing you to do that extra step either before, after, or both, or even during. All right? All right, let me see if the stream is still going. because sometimes it kicks me out and so on. Everybody following where I am so far? Any questions? All right. And again, live replay viewers, if you have questions about anything I'm asking, you can drop them in the comments, the YouTube comments, or you can email me. Either is fine. The point is to help you guys. All right, so next question, 33. Let me make sure that's fitting on the screen. Yeah, it just fits. Wait, maybe it doesn't. Okay, I cut off the top slightly and the bottom slightly. So we're going to go to the figure first. We have a cylinder, and it's showing us some length there is 6 inches. So that length appears to be the diameter of the bottom. Okay, right? A cylinder is made up of a circle on the top, a circle on the bottom, and then this tube thing through there. So we don't know if this cylinder is solid or hollow, and we don't care so far. So that's the questions, and that's all they're giving us. We don't know anything else about it. So normally it's best to kind of start drawing stuff, because they may or may not ask you about it, but the more you're starting to get to know what's going on, the better off you're going to be. And again, they're telling you this is 6. So if we go from the center of here, then this here has got to be 3. See, that seems to be my interpretation of what's going on here. And by the way, notice right here, and I'm going to darken this, but in their case, it's a dotted line. So we're not dealing with a translucent cylinder. It's implying that it's probably solid, or that we can't see through that wall. So that may or may not be significant when we start reading the words. We don't know yet. All right, we're grokking all this information just by looking at the illustration. That's why I keep focusing on illustrations on all these problems. The past 2 examples, like the shadow one, there wasn't much going on here. It kind of isn't here. But I like to look at the illustration so that the words, because the words are often going to be tricky and so on, you don't want them distracting you. So if you look at the illustration first, start asking yourself questions about it, even like, what might they ask me? Or why are they showing this to me? That kind of a thing. You kind of have a leg up, especially when some of these questions have their own patterns to them. A lot of the questions are going to be the same from year to year to year. I think it'll give a little twist to it, right? And that little tweak and that little twist can matter significantly. So you want to make sure you're understanding the basic problem. All right. So let's go back to the words. It says the height of the cylinder. This is the height here. Is 2 times its diameter. The height is 2d. So I'm mapping the English straight into words and throwing it right onto the figure that I already drew. The height of a cylinder shown is 2 times its diameter. Okay? The formula for finding the volume is this. So again, they're giving it to us in the SHSAT they want. Volume equals r squared h pi. Okay? And just a quickie to, if you make an observation, I'm going to kind of do a sidebar right now. If you kind of make an observation, again, on the SHSAT, they will not give you this volume formula. And if you just make an observation that if the ends of the cylinder are circles, then their area is pi r squared. Okay? And the only thing we're doing is basically reproducing that circle up and down here. Sorry guys, let me wait, let this end for 1 second. Give me 1 second. I'm going to turn off notices. Okay, so if the area of a circle, which is the bottoms of it, if you do an infinite number of circles going up here, that's equal to the height. So the reason I'm showing this is pi r squared is this r squared and this pi. And what we're going is up h. So you don't need to memorize all the formulas. You just need to understand where they're coming from. And I might actually do a YouTube to showing you guys this, but if you go through a lot of the things about a sphere and a rectangular prism and versus a rectangle and a square and a circle and all this other stuff, including a cone, some of these, I mean, you can memorize them, but some of them you can just compute on the fly, all right? So this is the case where it's showing there that if you just focus on the end caps and it's going basically up infinite, what in this case is h, then that's where you're getting your formula from. All right, so going to end the sidebar, come back to the problem. So it says the height is 2 times its diameter. Its diameter is 6, so its height is 12. Okay, and then we're just going to throw this in here. The radius is 3. We already pointed that out before we even started the problem. So we're going to get r squared h pi. So h is 12, and r squared is 3 squared times pi. So we get 9 times 12 times pi, and we get 108 pi. So 33 should be B. Yes, it is. Okay, so let's try to go to 34. Okay, I'm going to have to move the thing over here. Okay, this has an illustration again, so we're going to look at that. Seems to be a number line going from 15 to 90, and this is funny looking thing above it, and if anybody knows what this is, it's called the box and whiskers plot. You guys all learned this, all of you. Although in the New York City school system, they almost never really focus on it at all. So, so you kind of may forget what it is. So what I'm going to do is just focus on this to get the question answered at this point. I don't want to blow this into a box and whiskers discussion. But if you don't know what this is, or you forget, or you think you've never seen it before, because the truth is there's probably some classes that never covered it, and there's also some places where they covered it every single year. It doesn't come up often. It might be once on the state test, in one exam you have it on, and that's it. It's one of those topics that they never really dwell on too deep. But it deals with when you talk about all the topics of centrality, like mean, mode, range, average, things like that. This comes up because it's a way to distribute data. Okay, so let's just jump into the question now, because we noticed there's something happened at 25, something happening at 40, something happened at 50, something happening at 65, and something happening at 80. And I'm mentioning that because if you look for the up and down ticks that you normally do, those are the marks. Again, 25, 40, 50, 65, and 80. Okay? So let's assume for now you don't know what a box and whiskers is. If you do, you should be able to get this like instantaneously, and you should be on the next problem already. This is a giveaway question on the ISEE, the SHSAT, whatever. Certainly at the level I'm seeing it here. It's absolutely, it's a point or 2 points or whatever it's worth on your test just being given to you. So this is one you don't want to screw up. The box and whiskers plot below represents the high temperature in Fahrenheit degrees at a certain location on the same day in May for the last 50 years. So they collected data a certain day in May, let's say it's May 1st, who cares, 50 times, and they got a collection of data, and this is the set of data. So you can just look at it and make some conclusions. Again, even if you don't know what a box and whisker is, that 25 was probably the lowest temperature they ever did. 80 was probably the highest. And certain other things are going on in the middle there. Maybe the 50 is the median. Maybe the 15 is the mean. And there's something going on with the 40 and 65. By the way, they're called quartiles. And again, I'm not going to get into them. So again, if you don't know what this is about, Google it after after this YouTube, after you see this. There's enough stuff on the internet to help you out, certainly to get past enough of these kind of questions. So then the question is, what is the range of the data? Well, if you know the range, what range means in any set of data, whether it's presented in a box of Whiskers or a scatter plot or even a pie chart or other kinds of illustrations or tables, the range is the max minus the min. So in this case, we're talking about 80 minus 25, and that's what, 55? So 34 should be B. So again, this one you should be able to do in seconds. This is just a question being given to you guys. And I normally say don't do problems in your head. This is one you can do in your head. Just make sure you do that 80 minus 25 properly, though. Okay? And don't get confused with the quartiles, which are at the 65 and the 40, because there's enough people who might think that's going to give you 25, and that would be D. That's the wrong answer. The answer is B. And the range is not the same as the max, so it's not 80, and the range is not the same as the min, which also that 25 number comes up twice erroneously, all right? All right, so 35. Okay, 35 is the probability one. A bag contains green marbles. So as soon as I see a problem like this, I just start writing stuff down because it's following a pattern. I don't know which direction they're going to take the actual question in, but I'm just going to write it down up and down in a table form. I get 4 green, okay? 5 blue, okay? 2 yellow, okay? And 4 orange. And I immediately total it. So I get 9, 10, 11, 15. I'm going to do it backwards just to make sure my total's right, because it's easy to add these numbers up wrong and just totally screw it up. So this is 6, 11, 15. So I double check the total doing it 2 ways, not doing it the same way because I might make the same mistake twice. Again, this is simple arithmetic, but this is where kids lose points as well. So I'm gonna just stop and ask myself questions like what's the probability of choosing a blue marble? Well, it's 5 out of 15, or 1/3 if you simplify it. What's the probability of choosing an orange? It's 4 out of 15. What's the probability of choosing a yellow and orange? It's 6 out of 15. And again, you need to simplify these things in most cases on these tests. All right? So I'm asking myself questions just to make sure I understand what I have here. So as soon as you see a probability situation, just set this up. Just do this table, and it's done with, so that you don't get confused once the rest of the words start coming about, because they can be twisty. So let's see what we have here. Kate randomly removes 1 marble from the bag and keeps it. Okay. Joanne then randomly removes a marble from the bag. Okay, it doesn't say whether she keeps it or not. So that may or may not come into play here. If the marble Kate removed from the bag was yellow, what is the probability the marble Joanne removed was green? All right, so there is some tongue twisting going on here. All right, so let's go through it again. A bag contains 4 green, 5 blue, 2 yellow, 4 orange. So we have 15 total. Kate randomly removes 1 marble from the bag and keeps it. We don't know which one. So at this point, we can't get a probability. The only probability we can get is she took 1 out of 15. We don't know what color yet. They didn't tell us. And then Joanne randomly removes 1. So she is 1 out of 14 because Kate kept hers. Right? Joanne is also not 1 out of 15. She's 1 out of 14. Kate's marble is gone. Okay? And then once we're kind of a little confused, then they throw at us, oh, by the way, if the marble Kate removed from the bag was yellow, what is the probability that Joanne's was green? So if Kate took a yellow, they're not asking her probability. So they're changing the problem not from 2 yellow to 1. And if we did this, if we bumped this down by 1, we have to make this 14. All right? And then they just flat out ask us, what is the probability Joanne removes a green? So there's 4 out of 14. Okay? And normally we would reduce that to 2 out of 7. It doesn't look like they're doing reduced forms. So 35 had better be A, and it is. Okay? All right, so this is a standard problem, and they added that little twist to it. And that middle sentence where Kate removes a marble from the bag and keeps it, and they don't tell us which one, that's enough to confuse the daylights out of a lot of kids. Remember when I went through the lightning rounds and past ones of this and all my other YouTubes, the premise here is to read a sentence at a time, break the sentence down into phrases, and as you read each phrase, build it up to a super understanding. Stop at the end of every sentence and ask, what do I know, and what do I understand, and ask yourself questions about it. And then as you get to the next sentence, break that down into phrases, and you add each phrase and add each sentence. Keep building on your total understanding of the problem. All right? And that's the way to get through a problem like this. Right? It doesn't need to be talked about as tricky or they're trying to fool us. It's just taking things one step at a time. Take it mathematical, right? We're talking about logic. Yeah, it is a good idea. All right, so that's the kind of thing you want to consider. You're dividing and conquering the problem down, and you're doing it through mapping English into math. If you do that, often you can't be led astray. You want to do this methodically. If you're just kind of approaching this randomly, you're often not going to get a lot of these problems. So even the ones you're familiar with, if you do well in probability problems, the little twists where they left out what Kate's color was and added it back in later, that's enough that you want to make sure you're still processing all these things. By the way, the same idea applies to the ELA sections, whether it's the grammar, the revising, editing, or the passage parts. You need to interpret the passage, and you need to interpret the question, and you need to interpret the answers, all three. You can't leave one out. Okay, 35. So 36. I see it peeking out there. It's a doozy. So this is definitely a SHSAT level question for certain, and it's one probably enough kids will get wrong. So let's look at this bugger. So which expression is equivalent to the expression the square root of 16x to the 16th? Okay, that's the question here. And the display of answers, the multiple choice answers, is all the ones everybody's going to try to pick out. All right? And it's enough to get you confused. So first of all, the first thing is sometimes they give the answers on a question like this in an unnatural form. So we talk about simplifying something or putting something in order, like we write polynomials, it's like x squared minus 5x plus 2, instead of writing it in a different order. And when we simplify something, we normally divide it out and all this other kind of stuff like that. So sometimes they put it in an unnatural order. So in this case, everything's in the right order. Okay, so that's not an issue to contend with. And now the question is, wait, how does square root work? How does exponents work? So this is a double problem intermixed with itself. All right, so the first you have to realize is when we have a multiplication only, not an addition, enough of you split an addition part, we can split the square root in half. So this is the same as the square root of 16 times the square root of x to the 16th. Okay, so from right there, you know this has to be 4. Let me make sure this is coming on your guys' screen, by the way. Yeah, it is, okay. And not 8. And I'll get into a second why they're giving 8 as the example. Because enough of you might be saying it has to be 4 or something, right? And then this, enough of you, because square root of 16 became 4, then you're also going to square rootize this and make this x to the 4th. Okay? But this is the base number. This is 16 to the 1. This is the base here is x, and the exponent is 16. So this is not how the square root of an exponent works. Okay, and I'm going to show you two reasons why. First of all, x to the 16th is x 16 times. So we have x 16 times. Okay? Another way to look at this is is the same as x to the 8th times x to the 8th. So if we do 8 of them here and another 8 here, it's the same as that. So we still have 16. So what happens is when we do multiplication with the same base, or a way to make the bases equivalent, the exponent, we just add them. So this is equal to x to the 16. All right? So if we're taking the square root of x to the 16, right? We're asking for something. I'm going to use y times y. Y times y is x to the 16th. So it has to be equal to x to the 8th. Y has to be equal to x to the 8th. All right? And when you get the answer to a problem, you should feed it back in. So I'm saying the answer is 4x to the 8th. If we multiply that by itself, we get 4 times 4 is 16, and x to the 8th times x to the 8th is x to the 16th. Okay? Okay, and I mentioned a second ago I was going to show you 2 ways to do something. There's another way to think about square root. So if I have the square root of x, this is the same as x to the 1/2. So if the inside of here says x to the 16th, then this is equal to x to the 16th to the half. And again, we have multiplication here. So if we multiply 16, we get x to the 16 over 2, and that's equal to x over 8. So we still get the same answer by doing both ways. But we mathematically verified it through an identity kind of. All right, so we have 2 ways of doing it. We still get x to the 8th, so we still get 4x to the 8th. And if we square that to double check, we get the answer. So, and I also mentioned, I was going to show why they showed the 8 here. So what's going to happen is, because there's 2 different rules for taking the square root of 16 to the 1 and x to the 16, 2 different rules, some kids will start out with the 4, and then when they end up here, then they'll start doubting themselves. When they finally remember the exponent rules, they'll get to the x to the 8th, and they go, wait, if it works here, it's got to go, then the square root of 16 has to be the 4. And it's going to be a double whammy, because enough of you are not going to split this in half. Instead of viewing this as 2 multiplications, 2 square roots, okay, that's why I draw this line here. I'm not only mentally thinking about this, I'm physically thinking about it, that this is two different problems. If you keep it together, it's more confusing that you're thinking this is one giant number. I mean, theoretically it is, but if you split it up, because that's what algebra is about. Algebra is about breaking things down into pieces and trying to solve for things. And often we're talking about solving for x or y or simultaneous equations and so on, but we're also using the constants. 16 is a constant. We're also using coefficients. We're also using all these other numbers. They're involved in all those properties and solution sets and so on, all right? All right, so this is actually a hard problem in disguise. Enough kids are going to get this wrong. If you know the 2 rules, then you're cool, and there should be no confusion. If not, again, you need to go back to your basics and make sure you know how square root works and you know how exponents work. And as I just showed you, square root is really an exponent to the 1/2. All right, and often they can twist this up because luckily this didn't involve a fraction or anything like that. If it involved fractions, it would get even more complicated. Both for the 16, for the x, and for the exponent 16 as well. So they could have twisted this up super, super bad. By the way, I did a whole bunch of streams, especially on the lightning rounds. There was probably about 6 of them where I went pretty deep into exponents and square root and so on. So catch those on the replay as well. This problem was enough to justify watching this YouTube. All right, so all right, let me just double check that we're still live, because YouTube likes to play games on me. It looks like we're still good. Okay. And again, we have a few more problems to see how we're doing. 40 minutes. Okay, 37. Let me make sure we're getting that all on the screen here. It's not. Give me 1 second. Okay, 37 is more an ISEE question than a SHSAT one. Again, they don't release all the topic lists, and I have a YouTube. I'll put that in the end of this when this one ends. After it's done, I'll add a post-mortem link into this about what the math topics are on both the SHSAT 8 and the SHSAT 9. But as I've said in many streams, they don't give the exact topic list out, and they won't. So all this needs to be taken with a grain of salt. It's not exact. I'm mentioning this because this involves Sohcahtoa, and it will most likely not be any respective part of the grade 8 test. I can almost guarantee you that. And even though I can't guarantee you strongly for the grade 9 one, it probably also won't be on it. That said, you can certainly use Sohcahtoa to solve grade 8 and grade 9 SHSAT problems, but they often give you other information, so it doesn't become a requirement that you use it. Because enough kids have taken trig and enough kids haven't. So they kind of leave that blurry whether they're going to do that or not. In this example, if I'm reading it, so we have a right triangle. We know it because the little area in here has the little square there. So we know there's a right triangle. They're telling us this is 20 degrees, so this must be 70. This is 2, and they give us x, y, and z, right? And it says triangle XY is shown. The length of AZ is XZ is 2. The measure of XYZ here is 20. Okay, and the value of which expression is equal to the length of XY. So we're trying to find this. This is X. Okay, so at the grade 8 level, you have no other mechanism to solve this. Normally, because you need to use the Pythagorean Theorem. In this case, they're only giving you the length of one side. So you need to use some information based on those angles. And some of you might know what like a 30-60-90 triangle is and how that works. And a 45-45-90 triangle, there's certain patterns that happen there so that you could predict what the hypotenuse would be in that case. In this case, enough of you don't know what a 2 is. And if I'm not mistaken, there's multiple 2 triangles, multiple 2 right triangles. More than one can, there's normally like a 3, 4, 5. So there's a 2 something something. I think there's more than one of those, if I recall properly. So what they're really asking you here is to use the Sohcahtoa. And again, they twist it up. So this is an example. I gave the question earlier. What was the question we had? I don't know where it was. Oh, I think my, all right, give me 1 second because the document froze up. By the way, the link to the document is at the bottom of the description, so you guys can print out this test yourself or review it yourself. They don't give the answers. That's one reason why I'm going through this for you guys. All right, let me just reload this. It's probably showing on your screen, but when we go to the next problem, it won't be there anymore. 1 second, 1 second. Meantime, please like the video, please subscribe. I'm Greg from GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. A lot more videos still coming. Okay, that's 37. Let me make sure it's actually going through the software. Sometimes when this happens, it throws it away. And it's not at the throw it away. All right, so it should be back on your guys' screen. All right, so as I was saying, they're showing the choices in unnatural forms. We talked about that a few questions ago. So what I'm going to do is, since I'm seeing 20 in a few cases, I'm just going to do the sine of 20 and the tan of 20, because I'm seeing the both of those showing up multiple times. Whoop, my thing fell off the screen. So if you use the Sohcahtoa, right, And this is TOA then. So it's opposite over hypotenuse. So that's 2 over x, okay? And tan is opposite over adjacent. So we're not even given that. So we know automatically that C and D are thrown out the window. They can't be the answers because it's not involving that. So which of A or B matches this? We're trying to solve for x, right? X is the one over here. What's the length of the side? So we basically have sine of 20 over 1 equals 2 over x, right? So if we do the cross product, we get sine of 20 times x equals 2, right? And x, if we divide both sides by sine of 20, we get x equals 2 over sine of 20. Okay, which turns out to be B. Oh wait, sorry, it turns out to be A. I don't know how I did that. Okay. All right, I said the right thing and I looked at the wrong number. All right, so again, this probably won't be on the SHSAT, but again, it's good to brush up and at least know trigonometry up to Sohcahtoa. It's not hard to remember, and normally the problems are only going to go as deep as that. And again, on the SHSAT, if you can use Sohcahtoa, there's often a second way to do it that doesn't involve Sohcahtoa. Okay. Okay, so that's 37, 38. Let me make sure that's showing on you guys' screens too. No, it's not. So let me drag this out of the way. Okay, so 38 is strange in the sense that I always say, look at the figure first. And it turns out the figure isn't all the answers, and it's a different figure. So let's just see what we can grok from that first of hand. We have 4 number lines going from 0 to 100 each. Again, remember if there's a bullet above a certain number, that means that's included. So it's either less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. If there's a bullet that's unfilled in, it's just basically a hole. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about. We can have something like this where it's solid, or we can have another one where there's a hole. So this means it's either greater than or equal to or less than or equal, depending on what it is. And this just means greater than or less than. Okay? And I'm talking about if it's filled in as well. It can be filled in there, it could be filled in over here, right? If it's only just a dot, that means it's equal to, right? There's no less than or equal to. So if I just said x equals 5 and I told you that was 5, then that's just solid. That's the normal number line stuff you've been learning since kindergarten. All right, so we have these 4 number lines. There's information filled into there, a bunch of ranges. Okay, the first looks like it's from 20, it looks like it's actually above 20 to a little below 30. The second one looks like exactly 20 to 30. The C looks like it's a little over 40 to 50. And D looks like it's from 20 to a little over 100. Okay, so be careful with that, guys. Let me expand this for 1 second. Just kind of show you guys what I'm doing. Do you guys see that, where the 100 is falling through? And the previous example, the 40 is past it. So be careful of things like that when you're running into problems like this. It's easy to just look at it, and B looks like it's definitely 20 to 30. But if you look at A, C, and D, they're not actually on top of the exact numbers. They're moved over slightly. All right? So, which graph represents the solution set of the inequality 41 is less than or equal to 2x. Again, watch out when you're copying this stuff over. Is less than or equal to 51. Let me make sure that 41 is less than or equal to 2x minus 1 is less than or equal to 51. There's a few ways to approach this. I like to split this into 2 problems. 41 less than or equal to 2x minus 1, and 2x minus 1 less than or equal to 51. Okay, sometimes you can do this all together. I'd prefer to make it 2 problems. And now you just have normal algebra that you're going to solve. And let me make sure this is showing on you guys' screens. Whoops, I made it too high now. So that's our two problems. 41, so we're going to add 1 to both sides here. We're going to 42 is less than or equal to 2x. We can divide both sides by 2. Then you get 21 is less than or equal to x. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to add 1 to both sides. So we get 2x equals 52. Sorry, less than or equal to 52. Divide by 2 and get x less than or equal to, what is that, 26? All right. So if we combine the two of these, we have, let me write this neatly. Where can I put it? X is less than or equal to 26, and 21 is greater than or equal to x. Let me make sure that's showing any guys' screens. Yes, it is. So we need to combine these two? Maybe. So if you notice, 21 is less than it, and this is this. So we can combine it. So we get 21 less than or equal to x, less than or equal to 26. Right? Be careful with that. This says 21 is less, but this also means x is greater than or equal to 21. So if x is greater than or equal to 21 or less than or equal to 26, it's the same as this here. Okay? So which of A, B, C, or D maps this? Okay, so we have A is a little over 20 and about halfway between 20 and 30. So A looks like it's it. B says it's 20 to 30, so it's not B. C says 40 to 50. If we did it right, it's definitely not C. And D is they're just trying to take over everything here. So the answer for 38 would be A. Yes, it is. All right, we're hitting an hour, guys, and we didn't finish. So I think I'm going to end here. We're going to actually do another part still. All right. So again, please like, please subscribe. Watch out for my other YouTubes. I'll be doing a ton more. The SHSAT's still in about 2 months. There's enough time to prepare and study. This is not something you should be freaking out. You should be approaching it calmly and just methodically going through examples, maybe for an hour a day or something. And that really is sufficient in finding where your strengths and weaknesses are, and trying to enhance things from there. All right. Again, please email me for any questions you might have. GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. Peace out, people. Have a great Saturday.